Well, I guess we can go ahead and get started. Gosh, it's great for us to have Sebastien Young here to share this with us, because I'll tell you, the internet these days is a little bit scary. But I did want to announce, if you have not heard, Dr. Martha Cromit passed away this week, and she was very instrumental. She led the ADG for, I don't know how many, 5 years, I don't know how many, long time. And so we want to recognize her and think fond thoughts of her, and sort of her contribution to ADG, to keeping us going. So I think we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Mary. Yeah, it's a pleasure to always speak about cybersecurity. It's one of my greatest passions in life. I was so fortunate from a very young age to figure out that I did not want to do civil engineering. In fact, I wanted to code on computers, and I still don't do that now. So, and that's a good thing. I've been working in cybersecurity ever since I started back as an intern in college. I was so fortunate to get the position that my friend also had, and then later on, what's that? Oh, thank you. Here, I can maybe I can set it. It's fine if I just wiggle it around enough. Yeah, no, I know. I was working on that. I was like, oh, this is concerning. It's gonna die on me, and sure enough, it did. So we can actually do this. Hang on, give me like 5 seconds here. I know what I'm doing. I swear. Yeah. Well, fortunately, it wasn't, but desktop screensaver. There it is. Screensaver. Show after 1 hour. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work, but that's fine. Okay. See, that's what I'm telling you. All right, Katie, it really would be better if I just mirrored these. All right. My beautiful wife over there, Katie, and I, we actually just got married back in June. We actually had the pleasure of speaking to ADG, I think in May or April or something like that, and just introducing ourselves as new members of the church. It was great pleasure finding this place, and then finding that Pastor Mike had a passion for us to get married. So yeah, and it's been a long journey. I still work in cybersecurity as just kind of a jack of all trades at this point. And so mostly what I do is talk to people about their the way they're doing things, their operations, and how they can do that more securely, right? And so keeping yourself secure is more of a mindset rather than 1 or 2 steps. And I'll get into that near the end of it, but yeah, I just want to set that stage a little bit. Okay, so let's get into this. So our goal here is to make you more secure online than when you entered this room, right? So just a simple a concept that if you're looking at something on your computer, like you might flash through your head like some of the tips or some of the things that we go over today, and that alone is going to make you more secure, and it's all because it's your instinct. You are the one keeping yourself secure. So I just wanted to maybe gauge a little bit. What do people know? And I was asked specifically, by the way, I forgot to mention that, to talk about online scams. So I'm not going to go into all cybersecurity. I'm just going to talk about what people are trying to hit you with online. What do people think online scams are, right? Throw out a word, throw out anything. Anybody get scammed recently? Anybody get a phone call? Yeah? Yeah? No? Okay. Phishing, that's great. That's hot word, right? Yeah, I think we could just dive right into it. Online scams, I mean, I put up a little definition there. I'll just read it off for the benefit of everybody. Online scams generally refers to someone using online services or software to defraud or take advantage of victims, typically for financial gain. Pretty obvious. Scams have been with us since the days of yore where everybody is just getting scammed from one thing, like, oh, I have something I'd like to give you. Why don't you give me a little bit first, and then I'll come back and pay you back later? Maybe not. You know, that's very common, like out in the wild, and it always has been. And so why should online or the internet be any different? It's kind of just the new frontier. It's where people can go and congregate and gather as one group, and one place where people can, another platform where people can start to scam you. And so I just threw up a few of like the keywords up here. Just like I did like some searching around. I found like a lot of resources for like what are online scams, like give us all the definitions of online scams, like what are the various classifications, and it has a lot up there. I did separate them out, and I want you to take note of that, of the methods of delivery: email, phishing, spear phishing, smishing, vishing, whatever, right? Versus the types of the scams themselves, right? And I want to point that out because what is phishing? Oh crap! What is phishing? Oh, wait, what's going on? Okay, sorry. My brain is like thinking that I'm looking at my own screen here, so I'm like, yeah. Okay. So what is phishing and versus what is scamming, right? So when we're talking about online scams, that's the more important thing for you to be aware of. When you're actually being scammed, you should know how to respond to that. You should know what red flags to look out for the scam itself. So then what is this phishing that's elusive and nobody really knows what that is, right? Well, phishing is just the method that people use to trick you, right? It's the way you're tricked. Versus scamming, which is the thing you actually fall for and the thing that's going to separate you from your own personal crown jewels, right? So, and I want to say it like that because there's a lot of things that people can go after. I actually was thinking this morning as I was waking up, I was like, oh my God, I should have thrown in a slide that says, what do people actually want to get from you? And a lot of it is just like, they're looking for your money, they're looking for your banking information, and they're looking for ways to get into your computer and hack you, as it would be, right? So yeah, phishing is the same thing as scamming, really. If you break it down, if somebody says, "Oh, you fell for that fish," or if you fell for that scam, it's the same kind of terminology. And you know, just learning to protect yourself is all that takes. So let me see if I missed anything here. Scams are reported across the age ranges. Yeah, I just threw up some quick facts. So I mean, they're interesting, but I think it affects all of us, right? It's very ubiquitous. Okay, so who are they, right? Who are the ones who are trying to get your crown jewels? And I kind of have a little meme up here. I don't know if it'll work. Let's find out. Let's see. Did it work? No. No, see, that's just sound on my end. We'll just go here. That's the meme, right? So who is, oh, there it is. That's enough. Thank you, Wilson. Yeah, so who is this 4chan? Have you ever heard of that? Like, it's kind of just a joke at this point because 4chan is actually just another social media platform. So don't get confused, right? It's not just going to be like, oh, it's this cozy bear hacker, like, or some flavor of the month. I think there was one that was Clop recently. Funny enough, if you know, my wife's maiden name was Clop. So don't use that for my security questions, by the way. But yeah, so they have many names for these hacker groups, and those are not the people who are targeting you, right? The people who are truly actually targeting you and the ones who are executing these scams are, funnily enough, for the most part, in the majority, I didn't actually get any numbers for this, but for the most part, they're people who don't know they're scamming you. So they're going to go hire somebody from another country, right? Maybe India, right? Where they're going to tell them they're going to work for a Microsoft company. They're going to give them a regular paycheck, and they're going to tell them you have to sit on the phones, answer calls, and help people with their computer problems. And when they actually are like, when you're working with them, make sure that you install this new flavor of the month software. Yep. And it's going to fix their computer. These are what's called mules. I put it at the bottom there because mules are the ones in that sense, just carrying the payload, carrying the scam forward, carrying the malicious activity without knowing about it. Other things that maybe the more technical will be interested in is this scam as a service group, right? The second to last one. Scamming as a service is more like a group of hackers create a really great template or framework in order to attack people. Sorry, I have to watch my language here because if I use the wrong word, then it might start to conflate things and confuse the verbiage. Very common in my industry. But no. Yeah, no, I know. Let's spend like 2 seconds here trying to do this again since it did actually shut down. No, I know what it is. It's just I have to actually start up sleep or shut down, and then I have to say during on battery, please do not sleep. Turn off display after a minute. How about never? All right. Now I have to go back. All right, cool. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, so I was just talking about scamming as a service, and it's just groups that create these frameworks for other people to use, and they sell it online to those script kiddies, as we call them in the industry, less skilled actors to actually go and attack people on their own, right? And that's an interesting one. Obviously, I threw up also state-sponsored actors. Yes, that does exist. It's probably not targeting you, so you can actually feel a little safer at home, but it is going to be targeting the nation state, so it's a little bit more existential of a threat, right? And then individual small groups and criminals, those always exist, but they are much, much less so compared to the actors and the mules, right? All right, so types of online scams. Do we have Wilson back there? Yeah. So sorry, I like to see my own slides while I'm doing this. So, but yeah, so I'm going to get into a couple of these online scams, like all of the various ones that we've seen, or at least I listed out, and probably the most common ones, at least from my estimation of it, right? And I'm going to hopefully be able to give you some clarity on how they work and what to look out for when you are doing stuff on the internet. Okay, so phishing scams, right? Oh, there it is. I just put both words together, phishing scams, right? But this is a very general umbrella term that is capturing anything that involves your email, and it is specific to email because you'll see later there are words for if it involves text message, if it involves voice call. I'm sure there's a word for if it involves snail mail, but I'm not familiar with it. So yeah, phishing scams are the biggest and brightest thing that everybody talks about. If anybody has taken online training for phishing scams, this is what you're training against, right? You're looking for an email that looks legitimate, but is trying to get you to do something probably urgently. And if you do it, then you're going to be compromised, hacked, put into a state where you're vulnerable, giving away information, right? So again, just an umbrella term, and I mean, like, this happens all the time. We'll get into an example later on, but it is a more specific type of scam. But it is exactly what I want you to know about phishing, which is an email that tries to elicit an emotional response or a response from you, and it's going to trick you into doing something. So yeah, actually, let's get into that a little bit. So I don't want to lie to you and tell you that it's fine, right? There are ways that an email can be delivered to your inbox, and even just by the fact of it being delivered to your inbox can indicate to the attacker that it's there, right? And that is based upon, like you said, the link. If our email inboxes and take it, right? Actually, quick show of hands. Who uses Google in here for email inbox? No, Mike does. So, okay. Who uses Microsoft? Okay, great. And then who uses, like, I don't know what the Yahoo, AOL, any of the other big ones? Yeah, okay, that's good. I'm not so familiar with the other third-party ones, but the Google and the Microsoft are generally the biggest ones, especially for Microsoft in the business sector. Google is really bad. Okay, I use Google. Google is the one that actually will take your email and immediately indicate to the attacker that it's taken your email. And it's just going to have everything sitting there in your inbox. And unless, as we go into later, it flags it as suspicious, it's going to let you interact with it as freely as you want. Microsoft is a little bit better about this. I've seen it because I work with it in my current profession in the company I work for now. It will actually neutralize your links. It will intake the email. I don't know for a fact if it actually indicates to the attacker, but I know for a fact that it will let it sit in your inbox and it will be like, if you click on this, it's not actually, or if you hover over it or do anything, read it or anything, it won't go any further from your inbox, right? So Microsoft is the only one that I've seen do this, where it actually takes the links, rewrites them into a different thing, and basically makes it so that it's not the same link anymore, and the attackers don't control you by just looking at the link, right? So did that answer it? It does happen, like, but it's not super dangerous. You can't get hacked. You can't just get completely compromised by opening an email, right? You can get completely compromised by clicking on a link, but that's more rare, and there are ways to prevent it from there. Any other questions really quick before I move on? Cool. So this is one of the first types of scams I wanted to really talk about, like very specific ones. Some of you may know this as the very specific scam that involved a certain foreign prince. It was the most common one I think I found online, that was like starting in like early 2000s or something, or mid 2000s maybe. And it's still going on to this day. It's the one where the person will come to you and say, hey, I'm just a temporarily embarrassed millionaire, and I need your little bit of funds so that I can unlock the big bit of funds that I'm going to give you a piece of. Doesn't work. It never gets you money. So don't fall for it, right? If you ever see something like that, obviously you know it's false, and there are ways that you can actually report it, I think, mostly to government agencies. They want to know about it, but it's not really going to do anything, right? And that's something I didn't throw in here. I want to mention right now, I didn't really throw in a bunch of like what to do's after this, because anything you do is not really going to stop somebody, because it's just going to stop that one specific attack, and then they're going to go again later at a different date with a different method, blah, 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 right? Oh yeah, yeah. Different IP address. I can get into that if anybody has curiosity about that. Cool. The next scam I really wanted to talk about was this tech support scam. So is a really common one right now, and I really wanted to like bring your attention to, if you see something on your computer that says you have to fix something, you have to fix your computer, it's broken, you need to like do anything to get more data, to get more whatever, right? Don't believe it, right? You know your computer better than they do. If you go on a random website and your computer pops up with this warning, don't believe it, right? Turn off your computer first and foremost and turn it back on and see if that pop-up comes back again, you know? Now it could, but what I'm trying to emphasize here is that it's very easy for somebody who's maybe not the most computer savvy to look at a pop-up, a message, or anything that's going to indicate to them that they have to take action. And because the computer is like this big mystery, this big fog cloud covering it, it'd be really easy to fall into that idea that you have to go fix it, right? So that's how they start. And then we already talked a little bit about mules, right? These scams are almost always supported by people who don't actually know they're scamming you. So even if you do get in a phone call with them, or if whatever happens and you're talking to them, they're not the malicious people. They actually legitimately are trying to help you in the way that they think they're helping you, right? And that is the most insidious part about this. Yeah, it's pretty dark, but yeah, go ahead. They are. They are, yeah, they are accomplices. No, I think I actually legitimately want to emphasize that they do not know, because imagine, how would you go about fixing your own computer, right? So if you were going to fix your own computer, you might take it to a tech shop or to a computer guy and say, can you fix this for me? And they might do something where they pull together some analysis on it. They might, like pull the numbers, pull the hardware information. That's really very easy stuff. I can show you literally right now if you wanted. And then they might go online and just type, how do I fix this problem? And the first thing that's going to come up is reinstall a driver or something like that. I had to do this myself. In fact, my computer, which I brought, this is Katie's computer. My computer isn't working right now. The touchpad isn't working, right? So I went online and I was like, how do I do this? And there were like 5 links immediately. I should have taken a picture of this. There were 5 links that said, install this driver, install that driver. Now, being computer literate, I know I'm not just going to click any one of those links. I'm not just going to say, here, fix my computer. I'm going to click this and install whatever, right? Instead, what I'm going to do is go to the website of the manufacturer themselves, ask them, how do I do this? But I mean, more so just like Googling on their site, trying to find the information myself rather than calling somebody, because I'm like, I can do this myself. And then finding the actual driver or like piece of software that I needed specifically from the manufacturer, from the person who's actually going to want my computer to work, essentially, and installing that, right? So I would say these people who are the accomplices are completely unknowing, right? They're the ones who are going to say, oh, I do have to just install this driver or whatever into your computer, because this software is known to make that type of computer work, right? And it's been possible before that's true. I do actually run a lot of open source third-party software that does fix computers sometimes, not Windows though, but like, computers that are actually built for people like me. So, yep, 100%. And I don't have anything to support that. I wish I had found an article that was supporting exactly that, but I have seen anecdotal evidence of that, and like it's believable. Like it's very much like if you're from a foreign country, you don't know if you're working for Microsoft or if you're working for Tesla or if you're working for the Russian government, right? So. But yeah, tech support scams, I'm glad I could linger here a little bit. It really is the biggest concern, because the computer is the biggest, I think, weak spot in this chain, other than the person behind the keyboard. So let's go ahead, Mary.
I was just going to say, and I've talked about this before, but one time I had an issue with my computer, and I Googled Apple support or whatever it was, Apple computer support, and I got a phone number. I called it, and it was a scam.
Yep.
I got halfway down the road, and they were starting to load things, and I was like, I have to go now, and I hung up on them.
Yep.
But you can't even trust. If you want to go to apple.com and call the number on that website. Do not Google it.
Now, I will say, to add to that, if that person was legitimate and knowing that they were scamming you, then they're going to do a much better job than a mule will. Somebody who's unknowingly trying to scam you is actually going to be trying to help you as best they can. If you tell them that their software that they're installing is not working or something, then they'll probably stop and go ask their supervisor or something, because that's what a normal person who's working to help you will do. They're going to try to meet you where you're at. But if somebody knows that they're trying to attack you, then they're going to do a much better job about it, because they're going to say, oh, that's not working. Oh, that's too bad. Well, don't worry. You just have to turn it off and on again and it will come back up, right? I don't want to dissuade anybody from turning things off and on again. That actually does work. So
I also think there's the element of access and stuff. So you have to be careful if you are doing one of those calls and then giving permissions and access to the online party, and if they start controlling your computer, then you are putting yourself at risk. Well, so just be wary.
I mean, I'll talk this down.
That requires you to provide access to your machine remotely. Definitely a bad idea.
I do. It's called my job.
Well, so you may have a trust relationship with
Exactly.
client who is asking for the
Yep.
service because you're representing someone like, you're a third-party provider to a company.
Yeah.
The employee is
Yep.
saying, I've got an issue with my machine, help me fix it. And
Yep.
you're the designated person. But just inherently, if you're Joe Public, never provide remote access to your machine.
It's true. It's
Bad
true.
idea.
Don't ever provide access to a complete stranger. Definitely, you got to establish that trust relationship. I saw another question over here.
Oh, I was kind of related to Mary's question, but there have been times when I want help from my computer,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to go to Google Help.
Yep.
But there are all these people who have put themselves in front of Google, head of Google Help, and I got wrapped up with one of those once. I think I finally just said I'm not going to talk anymore. But what about, are those all scams or some of them legitimate?
100%. Actually, there was one, if maybe I can actually just quickly pop back to the slide. I put something in there called search engine phishing. You get slide number 4. Yeah. Okay. Slide number 4 has all the types. In there is this one called search engine phishing, right at the bottom of the phishing section. That is exactly what you guys are talking about, where if the way that they're going to trick you, the method they're going to use is not an email, it's actually going to be the website that they put on the internet, right? And Katie actually knows a lot about this because she's a designer, but they use, what's the word, Katie? Yeah, search engine optimization. Thank you. Keywords, search engine optimization, and everything, and they get their website to be listed first. Nope. It's just optimization. Yeah. And that's why it's very important for MBCC to have search engine optimization, because then we will come up first. Okay. Was there another one? I think I saw. Did you have a question?
I was just going to say, obviously, if the IT department of the person you work for offers to fix your computer by you giving them access, that's probably okay.
Probably.
I've done that many times.
Yeah. But that is a scam that people use. So go ahead.
Okay, twice we've gotten the one where Pastor Mike wanted our help,
Yeah.
and it was very personal. So you click on it and it says he wants you to buy these gift cards because he wants to give it. You know about this scam? Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's happened twice. So whatever fixed it the first time,
Actually, let me
it
go
came
back
back. The same scam.
Yep. That I think I put that one up there as, second one up there. Spear phishing. So nothing.
Scam? Do you
I'm sure
know?
they did. Did people get
Some of them
scammed,
did?
Pastor Mike? Dang it.
There were several people that called in. Thank you, Mary. There were several people that called in to Nancy Cross in the office, and the email that group was using was not my email.
Yeah.
But they made it like
Of course.
it could be my email.
And we will get into that near the end. I will show you guys where to look for that. It's in my Gmail client, so I'm glad that more hands went up for Gmail than any other service that I asked about. But there's no.
Can I just interject? Please. So spear phishing,
Yeah.
just in terms of the terminology, phishing is just broadcasting to the world. Let me see if I can find a sucker out there. Spear phishing means they know something about you. They know you're a member of MBCC, or they know you work at this particular company, or they know you're an aerospace engineer with a security clearance or whatever. And so they're targeting you. Mm-hmm. They're customizing it in some way. Now, it's probably a bot, it's probably an algorithm, but they've got a list of people, a list of potential victims, and they know something about you individually. Yeah. It's public information, like it's not a secret that we're members of this church. I'm sure people can figure that out. Yeah. But that's the difference between spear phishing and generic phishing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
People mistakenly assumed that I had been hacked.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with me.
I know. I know. It's really frustrating because trying to point fingers is really hard in one of those cases, right? And that is, I think, something that I threw in. If I could like take a peek ahead really quick to no, okay. Let me see if it's at the end here. No, okay, one more. Yeah, it's right on there. Be aware of your information you're sharing online. Of course, we're gonna get there. But yeah, that's exactly, sorry, Wilson. We're on slide 12 now. That's exactly what you need to do, is just be cognizant of what information you're sharing, because people will use that against you, right? It's not up here on this one, but social media scams is actually kind of related to all this, because people are targeting you. And they're not targeting you personally sometimes, but they throw you into a population of victims that they're going to be pulling information on and then training their bots to try to attack you. And that's another slide that I forgot to throw up on this deck, was talking about AI and bots and all that, and there's quite a future there. But yeah, let's get back to what I was going through. I think there's only 2 more scams that I wanted to bring your attention to. Social media scams, which I've had up here for a bit. Really quickly, I just want to say that people can go on any social media app, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, 4chan, and actually try to get you to elicit a response to whatever they're saying, right? They'll be like, oh, hey, I know you from wherever, and then they'll just fool you into clicking on their link or something. And more scams happen that way than you think, because it's just kind of a direct line of access. And specifically, the type of communication, smishing versus phishing, similar to social media phishing, that type of communication elicits more responses than an email, right? An email, you might open it and you might see that has some fishy links in there or something in there, and you might not want to do anything about it. But when you see a text message come in saying, hey, it's Pastor Mike, I got a new phone, right? What are you going to do? You're going to respond to that. You're just going to quickly say, oh yeah, thanks, Mike. Great to have your new number. Sorry that your phone fell in the toilet. And then Pastor Mike is going to come back and say, oh, thanks for responding. Hey, I need some gift cards so I can replace my phone, other technology that also fell in my toilet, right? So you can see how these kinds of communication methods, right? The phishing, the method of attack, the trick that they're actually trying to lay for you, the trap they're laying, that might elicit more of a response and might have more success rate. But I will tell you, the silver lining here is that these methods of attack are a lot more controlled, right? The phone lines and the text message lines and the social media apps with the fake accounts and everything like that, those are a lot harder to set up for attackers. It's not impossible. Obviously, nation state actors have very ready access to all of this, but it's a lot harder for them to fake it. So email is the biggest one because it's easy to fake, okay? And we'll get into that really quick here. Go ahead.
Just yesterday, thank you, Mary, you're getting your morning exercise in.
Oh yeah.
Just yesterday, I got a friend request from Nancy Miller. And this happens all the time, where I'm already a friend with Nancy Miller and the Jimmy Miller Foundation.
Yep.
And so one of the dead giveaways is, I think I'm already a friend. So I get out and I look under my friends, and sure enough, I'm already a friend.
Yeah.
The photo that was used for the profile was of her.
Yeah.
But it was a different photo than the actual photo.
Interesting.
The number of friends that she had in the fake profile was much smaller.
Much smaller, okay.
Than the number of friends that she actually has in her profile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the link was probably to something evil.
Yeah.
The link was to something, it could easily have been to something evil. I mean, maybe the link was to a social media account that they're manufacturing, but it could also just be a link to, install evil Trojan software.
Yeah, and even if they didn't have that link readily available on their site, which I would suspect they didn't, then as soon as you start interacting with them, they're going to start sending you something malicious, right? But hey, really quick, did you report it?
I just deleted it.
So,
Once you identify, you can actually report it as a.
yep, social media, and that's why,
someone masquerading as a friend.
yeah, that's why I
And
brought that up.
You tag the fake account, or I think Facebook requires you to identify your legitimate friend who is being masqueraded.
Yes, yeah, sometimes.
And then it sort of, goes into their queue.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'll text the person and say, your Facebook account's been hacked. You need to change your password.
Dang it.
You know?
That's not the right response. Change your passwords all you want. I am a huge fan of that. I threw in also the advices, by the way, using password managers. I'm going to start the plug now. Password managers are the best thing in the world. Even if they do have some security vulnerabilities themselves, they're going to get you ahead of the other guy faster than, rather in that saying, don't run faster than the bear, run faster than the guy next to you. Yeah, it'll get you ahead of the other guy. Go ahead, Mary.
Just a question on Facebook friend requests.
Yeah.
Because I get them too, and you get them from some guy, and I don't know where he is, but he's some guy in a basement somewhere. But anyways, they will ask for that. Now, I did a Google search on why do people ask me to be friends with them that live in, wherever. And it said that what they do is they try to become friends with you so they can monitor you and get information about you so they can, hit your bank account or whatever.
I mean, very much so. It's like if somebody came by your house and knocked on your door and said, oh, I'm a general contractor, I need to come look at your house, or I don't know, anything, right? And you let them in, then they're going to get information about you that they can leverage against you, right? If they're a criminal, then they're looking for ways to break into your house, right? And that's exactly what it is. But I did mention social media specifically, and I'm glad we had this conversation because reporting it is something that is available there that's not available really anywhere else, right? In a more ubiquitous way, social media accounts are better controlled and have more regulation against people who are trying to attack you than an email, right? That's the worst case. Phone calls or even texting, and thinking like snail mail, you can't do anything about that. There's not much you can do for any other platform other than social media, because social media, the companies will always provide you a way to usually report, right? I don't think I've seen a single social media account or platform that doesn't have a report in there. And I guess I really should have thrown up some instructions on how to do that, especially in Facebook. That's a good one.
Next door neighbor thing, it's called. And there are a lot of commercial ads sneaking into well, they're not sneaking, they're just coming in. If you need a roofer, if you need a contractor, if you need a gardener.
Mm-hmm.
Are these legitimate?
You mean the ones that we're just getting like in the mail and stuff?
And
Oh, I'm not familiar. Maybe. I've never heard of it. Yeah.
It's a social media app. Just with anything,
Katie.
and Sebastian was going to put this on every slide. Trust your instinct. If
Yes.
it looks weird, it sounds weird, just ignore it, move on.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
if you
totally.
can delete it, you
if you're
can delete
suspicious.
notifications sometimes.
Delete it. Yeah. Yeah.
What I would do
Here,
is report if
Katie.
you can.
Katie, come on. No. No. I want to speak to that because that's part of my job, right? Is when somebody sends me a phishing email that they're like, oh, this is a phishing email, I say delete it. I don't say do anything, report it to me. I don't even tell them to forward it to me. I don't want them to really, because I might fall for it, who knows. It's a joke, but it's not really a joke. Delete it if you're suspicious of it. And Katie was right. I wanted on every single one of these slides to say, trust your instincts. Your instincts are your best asset, right? You are the person protecting yourself. So if you're suspicious of something, delete it, right? The person will follow up with you in some other way. Or if you think like, oh man, that might actually be a good deal, find another way to contact the person. Don't email them back. Don't text them back. I mean, maybe you can call, but don't call the same number, right? find another way to contact that person, because that's the best way to verify it, is through a separate means. And if you're just suspicious of it, just delete it. It doesn't matter, right? Go ahead, Mary. Sorry.
With respect to Gmail, sometimes you'll get these scam emails, and you know it's a scam, and you're trying to delete it off the list and just send it to spam. But what it'll say is, it'll say unsubscribe. It'll give you, the only option is like to unsubscribe and delete.
Yeah.
And I never subscribed to this.
Yeah, that
Should I
happens to
do
me
that?
too.
I mean, if I say unsubscribe, does that put me at risk and I'm going to get a zillion more of these?
So I was unsubscribing for the longest time. Sorry, this is actually an interesting fact. I was unsubscribing to every single email that I got, because they just sign you up for these lists. Like, I actually started reading into the deep terms and conditions of all these websites, and they say, oh yeah, we don't share your data, but we do give your information to other people who put you on lists. And I'm like, great, thanks. But yeah, so I was unsubscribing for the longest time, and then I got caught, not by a real phishing or scamming attack, because that one isn't really going to do much to you. I got caught by my own company saying this was a phishing email, and by clicking on the unsubscribe link, you have now just like fallen into remedial training on phishing. I'm like, are you serious? That does nothing. So anyways, I was a little upset about that, and I would say delete it. Unfortunately, it's just spam. One thing that I also do, Mary, if you want to try to do this yourself, is filtering. If you're able to and you're savvy enough for it, then you can start to filter out the things that you always get. Like if you see one specific mailing list constantly coming in, well, first off, that's probably legitimate. But secondly, you'll probably be able to just put that like address or something into a filter and just say, I don't want to see this anymore, and it goes away. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I'm just going to ask you a question. What password manager do you use, and what security software do you use?
Yeah, so that's a great one. First off, I don't use security software. So I know, right? I use the software that is built into the computers. So I'm the kind of person who is like really concerned and paranoid about these security softwares. We actually saw one that came up, Kaspersky, I think, that was Russian backed, and yeah, it was really interesting. The default softwares on computers, in my opinion, should be protecting you well enough, but that's not to say don't use them. If you get somebody to give you or install Norton, that's a good one. I know McAfee does a pretty good, Norton is a good one. McAfee is a good one. One that I've actually used for my grandmother actually on her computer, and actually worked for quite some time, was Sophos. There was a free plan for that. That's why I picked it, and it wasn't bad. So there are good antivirus software. Now, password managers I'm more interested in, right? Because password managers, they're actually going to keep you safe more readily than an antivirus software. Antivirus software is more like your underwear. You know, you don't want to go out on the internet not wearing it, but if you're not wearing it, like, you wouldn't know. Password managers are the thing that are actually going to make it so that you can function on the internet and keep yourself safe. So LastPass was a great one for the longest time. It had the best free plan. It was pretty decent paid subscription models and all that, but they had a huge breach, and they are kind of now, what's that called, blacklisted or something on the market. And I started looking for other ones. I would highly recommend Bitwarden. Here, I want to like type it on the screen, be like, this is how you spell it. They have the best free plan that I've found, and their paid plan is only $30, I think, a year, I want to say. I'll have to go back and check. But essentially, it's my recommended one because I think their model of creating their software is going to be the most secure for the longest time. There's a lot of other great ones that could give you good recommendations. 1Password is good. I think there's another KeyPass that I think we are using at my work now. I know that a lot of the other password managers also come with like VPNs. I think there's like Dash or something that comes with a VPN. I don't, but that's because I also don't do anything shady. So yeah, I could talk about VPNs and like why you should or should not use them, but
could you just explain so that people know what a password manager does?
Please. Yeah, sorry, I skipped that part. So when you're on the internet, everybody knows you're creating accounts everywhere, right? And I mean, we just bought our house, so we had to go create accounts for a bunch of different services, just so that we could, get all of these bills paid or whatever. And as I was creating all those accounts, I needed a password for each one of them. Would be really easy to keep using the same password, Scruffy14 or something like that, Scruffy Taco 14. That'd be the same password everywhere, and I could do that, but it's not going to keep me safe, because as soon as one of those accounts are hacked, and I can tell you a little bit about how they get hacked, all of them are hacked, right? So don't do that. Don't use the same password. How are you going to use different passwords in every single location, right? And the only way to do that is to randomize. Yes, you can try to create a nice little, what's that called? Like mnemonic, or like a template or something, a passphrase that you constantly are using for various passwords and vary them in various places, but then you're going to forget it. And I forget my passwords all the time. I think I literally forgot my my college laptop password, and I still have not remembered it to this day. And I have it sitting in my office. I'm like, I wish I could remember this password. So password managers are going to accomplish all that for you. First off, they're going to create your passwords. If you want them to create it randomly, they can. If you want them to create it in like a different way that's more memorable, they can. But they're going to ultimately just remember everything for you, so you can forget. Right? Just go forget it all, because it's actually better. Go ahead.
I'm an amateur filmmaker, and I got some footage from my dad's best friend. They were in submarines in World War II, and it's 24 minutes. And I took it down to Telescene, Burbank, and had it transferred so that, it was just pristine. So I went to work every Monday for a while, because I was retired, recently retired. And I had a really good friend that really knew editing, really knew the computer, but not the editing. And I was lucky enough to be able to sit down with her. So we did this every Monday for a while, for 7 years.
Cool.
So here I was putting everything on Windows, and I was using for my email thing, I got to think, Microsoft, right? So here I am putting my manuscript, my dialogue, and my film, and individual pictures, because she was very good at that, and she's a great friend. Anyway, I did this for another 10 years, every Monday. I probably skipped a couple months, years, I don't even remember. It was a part-time thing, and it's all for, the family. One day, had to be 10 years ago. Okay? All of a sudden on my screen, Microsoft is giving me do we have permission to use whatever? I looked at it, I thought, permission to use whatever. And so I scrolled down, and what I saw was, and I'm not kidding you, pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of all my manuscripts. Okay? No, it wasn't all my manuscripts. What they were doing, they were saying, we're checking your spelling. Every time I put spell check, I had a line. And the essence is, I said to myself, holy Moses, man. Everything that I put, everything is at risk for me.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so I said no. I just said no. Okay, and I thought, wow, I sure did spell check. Well, I was thinking, because I'm always trying to think of better words than, the submarine did a crash dive at 80 feet, and it was, I was trying to think, what are the words I want to use so to make it more interesting.
Sure.
So I had many spell checks because I didn't go to the dictionary and check anything.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, I just want to let you know, I just thought, so from then on, I now, frankly, in emails, I'm a friendly guy in emails. I say, thank you very much for letting me know about the meeting. I'll be there. That's it.
Yeah.
Because if I start saying, I don't agree with you about this, and here's why, I'm going, I used to do that.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I know what you're saying. It's all about online privacy. And I'm not here to tell you about online privacy, because I'm frankly not the right person to do that. What do you say?
The fact that spell check,
Yeah.
give Microsoft.
Oh, no, for sure.
And then someone told me, well, now they don't even ask you.
Yeah, no, they don't. And they don't need to. because you're using their tool, you're using their product, and it's unfortunate that we live in this world and day that we do, but as soon as you use anything, your data is no longer yours, right? So, and there are people you can trust to hold your sensitive information and all that. And again, like online privacy, I am not the best person to talk about that because I don't care. I really don't care about my own online privacy because I would much rather live in a world where I just assume that everything I do is not mine, right? And I would just rather have that mentality and that peace of mind that like what is out there is no longer with me. But I guess it's more of I've gotten so far past the point of wanting to protect myself online that now I realize that I can't do it and I just forget about it. So it is a philosophy, right? And online privacy is another philosophy that we can really talk at length about, but let's talk about scams. No, for sure. I'm grateful to talk about, like I said, cybersecurity is my passion. And I'm fortunate enough to work in a job that also lends itself to it. So, all right, really quick, I wanted to bring you guys some examples, right? I found 3 great ones. There were many other ones I could have thrown up here, but they were a lot lower profile. So just, from top to bottom, crypto Ponzi scheme, right? MLS or pyramid schemes or anything like that. There are always scams that are happening online. This was just one of the highest profile ones that was worth billions and billions of dollars because they trick people into investing into a certain cryptocurrency. Great, right? The Google Docs phishing, that's going to be a little bit closer to home because people are constantly getting requests from Google or Google Docs, and like it's so easy to look at one of those emails and be like, oh yeah, totally, Pastor Mike shared with me this Google Doc. I need to just go in there and start editing it. He asked me to do that. And you click on the link and you're hacked. Fortunately, this is why like the big companies are better in certain ways and worse. Google took really, really quick action and they shut that down very quickly. And it wasn't that big of a deal. The estimated cost, I couldn't find any estimations on it, but it was definitely less than $1 million. And that's not that much in the grand scheme of things. Yes, very big for certain universities that had to pay like $100,000, but I mean, that's only one company. So then there was the last one I wanted to throw in there. It's a bit more personal to my profession. SolarWinds supply chain attack. I wanted to bring this one to your guys' attention because this is like the grand espionage, like, the one that you think about when you're like, oh, these hackers, they got into everything, they got into the entire internet. That's exactly what happened here, right? SolarWinds was a company that provided a software and a solution for people to manage their internet connected devices, right? And because their software was helping to manage the internet, right? I just summarized what I said there, to paraphrase. When they got hacked, they were actually completely, like the entire infrastructure of our internet was at risk. And sure enough, and Katie was going through and editing my slides, so I don't actually have the information up there. I see it, but they don't see it. It affected numerous government agencies, private companies, and it all started with a phishing attack, right? It all started with somebody in SolarWinds company accidentally getting compromised and granting access to their code base or whatever, and the hackers went in and inserted some malicious code, and that got distributed to millions of companies. And so the impact is completely unknown, but I'm going to estimate it's in the trillions or maybe a little bit less, right? So those are really big ones. Okay, let's get into a little bit of the red flags. We've been talking a lot about this, and I'm hoping that the one things you guys are taking away is exactly what I have up there. Your biggest asset is your own instinct, right? You are protecting yourself, and so nobody's going to do a better job than you, right? So trust yourself. If you think something is suspicious, do something. Cool. So some red flags, right? There's unsolicited emails, right? We talked about that, where somebody is like hitting you up saying, hey, can I get some gift cards? You're like, oh, I didn't contact this person. Too good to be true offers, right? The housing stuff that we talked about, like I think it was Nextdoor, was that the app? Yeah. So those offers that are too good to be true, trust your instinct. They probably are, right? That's always the case with scams and in general. Anything requesting anything personal. So if you don't want to give away your information, like your manuscript, and they're asking you to do that, obviously just say no, right? I mean, I don't want to say Microsoft is a scam, but you know, Microsoft's a scam. So urgent or threatening language. I want to get into this one next because that's the example I actually have. So I'm going to just breeze over it. And then misspellings and poor grammar. That might not always be the case. You know, it might be your grandchild who's reaching out to you or something like that, and they can't quite spell yet. But as long as your grandchild isn't asking you for credit card numbers or to click on a link to install malicious software, then I think you're fine. Right. Cool. Here's my personal example. I picked the Hitman scam because I went into my spam folder and I said, okay, what scams or phishing emails have I received? Sure enough, I found one. It's called the Hitman scam. It's where somebody will threaten you with embarrassment or violence or harm or to a family member yet, and they're going to try to get you to just give them money. It's actually one of the most straightforward scams, I think. It's very much like a mugging. Somebody meets you on the street, you know, it says, you know, give me your money, otherwise I'm going to post porn about you. Sorry, excuse me. Let's get into that a little bit. So, sorry, I'm going to have to turn so I can look at it myself. I wish I had a little laser pointer, but I do zoom in on the parts that are most important here. So here's the email that I found. It was in my spam folder, and you can tell because of that little gray bar up there. It does show like, oh, this was detected as spam. Do you want to mark it as not spam? And that's a great thing because, you know, it protected me from the get-go. That was one of Google's benefits. If this was Microsoft, it would have actually just left it in my inbox, maybe flagged it, and then it also would have neutralized any links in there. But fortunately, there were no links. So we're going to dive into the top part there. I'm going to do this. We're going to dive into the top part there, where it's the subject line, the from address, and the to address, right? And so those who are attentive or spotting it will realize that the from address, oh, I don't have any circles on there. Oh, thank you, Katie. So the subject being that, you know, you have outstanding debt, from address being Sebastien@young.cc, and the to address being myself. And then one more thing in there that's a little check mark, and that's the spam flag over to the right that we talked about, right? Okay, so the subject, it has inflammatory, evocative, and action-provoking language, right? That is the biggest red flag of them all. When we're talking about email scams, the biggest red flag is somebody trying to make you do something, because how else are they going to succeed but trying to get you to do something? Then the next flag here is, oh, thank you for the animation. That looked really good. The from address, right? Those, you may not realize it at first because you're looking at this and you're like, oh yes, my email is Sebastien@young.cc. Or maybe you don't own Sebastien@young.cc and you're like, my email is SebastianYoung@gmail.com. What the heck is this, right? That is them impersonating, right? So we have kind of a double whammy here. They have the really bad language or the inflammatory language, and then they have an impersonation of somebody that you know, which is yourself or Pastor Mike, right? And there are many, many ways to do this. In this case, they actually were able to impersonate my actual email, right? I actually do own Sebastien@young.cc, is not the email I generally use, so that's another red flag to me personally, but they were actually able to get the address on that header. So the last one is a check mark, right? Google did this great. It filtered and it labeled it as spam. And the reason it did that was because of their own machine learning models, right? They were able to kind of scan through the email and detect that it is not legitimate, right? And it is 9:30, so let's. So really quick, also here, I don't have any good like pointers or anything, but here in the body, you can also see a few of the red flags that we talked about before. First and foremost, the circled hello there, it's not addressed to me. It's not saying hello Sebastian, hi Sebastian, or anything like that. That's not too big of a red flag because I think somebody could easily get around that. But then the next one is that there's really bad grammar in here. Unfortunately, there are some bad news for you. And sure enough, there was. So, and I could get into a bit of the body. It does go into that they have, dirty videos about me or something like that, and they want Bitcoin. I don't know if I actually put a slide up there about that. No, I didn't. Let's see. They are asking, yeah, let's resolve this. I actually cut it off at the bottom. Sorry about that. But they were asking for 1,450 USD. So I'm like, I'm not going to pay that, right? Oh, and another thing that you'll see here, my dad actually works for a email spoofing prevention company. Inky, his company, threw up a second banner up there, the red one, saying danger, external to Sebastien@young.cc, but it is a cryptocurrency scam, spoofed internal sender, and more. So yeah, all the things that we talked about there, but in more technical jargon. Okay, so, I mean, any questions about my example there, right? I mean, I'm out $1,450, so. But no, obviously, like, most people won't fall for that. It is low-hanging fruit, and, oh, there's 9:30. Yeah, so it is low-hanging fruit, and one thing I do want to say is that I have been told in the past that these mistakes that they make that make it pretty easy for us to spot as intelligent people, they do that on purpose because they don't want intelligent people to go into and get spoofed or scammed, right? You might feel good about that at first, but then it makes you realize that the people who are going to fall for it are much more likely to actually be separated from their money, right? So they're trying to get that really, really low-hanging fruit, trying to get only the people who are going to be separated from their money because they don't want to waste their time, right? Yeah. So, all right, what can you do to be safe, right? What can you do? What can you see as red flags? And as we already talked about, there's not much, right? Being more cautious, right? If you suspect something wrong, then verify it. If it doesn't check out, throw it away. Trash it, because you don't want it cluttering up your inbox. You don't want to accidentally go there and accidentally click a link or something. I don't know. All right, go ahead.
I have a Virgin computer, and on that computer are only 3 websites, 2 brokerage firms, and my bank. And there's no email on it at all, and that's all I use that computer for. So I feel relatively safe. I don't know. Tell me.
Yeah, no, get Mary's.
Oh, yeah.
I'll only share mine with John.
You know, he's pretty modest, but if there's one guy that knows more than Rick Hefner about this, it's this guy sitting here, and he is a wealth of information. I get to just ask him, because he was one of the top guys at IBM. He won't tell you that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, do you connect that computer to the internet, John?
Excuse me.
Do you connect it to the internet?
He brought up banking. I do like everybody, pay bills and stuff and through your bank. Now, how safe is that? I've got a great password.
Yeah.
And nobody could ever guess it or whatever. But
Sure.
How safe is online banking? And
Yeah.
people ever get that hacked and take your money?
Yeah, no, it's so what we're getting into right now is talking about the avenues of attack, right? And what we've talked about today was simply just the phishing avenue, the avenue where somebody's trying to socially engineer you. I didn't use that word in this entire talk, but social engineering is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to do something. What we're talking about now, where you say, I'm doing everything right, how safe am I really? We're talking about now a new avenue of attack. Somebody has to actually break in using a method that is not accessible to you. I don't want to say anything incorrect about how safe that is or what probability that's actually going to break into your computer, but it is possible, right? It always is possible. If there's a will, there's a way. And that kind of goes here as well, right? Will it take, the random kid who's just using a computer to break into your computer? No way. right? I heard a story about one of the children of the church actually breaking into a school, right? That's because the school is doing something inherently wrong, and not because the kid is super hacker, really smart, or anything like that. I mean, he is really smart, but it's a different story. It's going to take a nation state to, at that point, break into your computer, right? That's the kind of level that we're talking about. Go ahead, Mike.
I have to scoot, but I want to leave you with a very scary story that's true.
Yeah.
My daughter, Kate, has a good friend, college educated. They purchased a nice home down in the Encinitas area, she and her new husband. And she got a call saying that she was in trouble with her computer. There had been some pornography on there that involved children. And anyway, to go to your point, using the emotion to scare, she was and she was very defensive. That wasn't me, I didn't do it, all this stuff. And then turns out what they did was they kept her on the phone. They said, don't call the police, don't tell anyone. This is what you need to do. And she was so fearful that in that state, she was irrational. Yeah. And they got her to go to an ATM, withdraw $20,000 out of her bank account, go to a different location and deposit it. All the time, stay on the phone and all these threatening things. Well, you think, well, how could you be so stupid? This is what they did. They hacked her Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. They were able to, she was able to call what she thought was her bank. They intercepted it and pretended to be the bank. And that's the only reason why she did this, because she thought she was talking to her bank. Yeah. So how do you protect your Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
I gotta go, but you
No, of course. And there are ways to protect it a little bit better, Actually, I threw it up there. Number 4 on the practice good security stewardship. Keep your computer up to date. That goes for your Wi-Fi too. So if you kept it up to date, it might not have happened. Maybe.
You have to update your Wi-Fi?
Yep. Usually your service provider will do it for you, but I know because I do everything myself, they don't always. So once a month? No, it's more like once a year.
Pardon me?
More like once a year.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but again, your service provider is going to usually do that for you. It's just like everything has security vulnerabilities. Everything is a vulnerability. There is no such thing as a closed system, at least not yet. In computer science, and that's why I studied computer science. We study the concept of unanswerable questions, and sure enough, we don't know yet, it's unanswerable whether or not it's true. Go ahead.
I'm just, speaking of Wi-Fi, I'm curious about a computer that's hardwired into your router as opposed to Wi-Fi on your computer, and then on your phone and your iPad, perhaps.
Yeah, I will say
the highest risk.
Yeah, well, I think anything using radio signals is a risk, right? Wi-Fi and wireless is kind of just a overused or overhyped thing. Wired is better, yes. Is it more secure? No, because generally somebody at their home will not have 2 networks, one for the wired computers, one for the Wi-Fi computers, one for the radio signals, all that, right? Generally, you always have everything interconnected, and you are only as strong as your weakest link. And if your weakest link is Wi-Fi, which is weaker than a wired connection, then it's possible that you could be hacked. Now, the story Mike shared, that would have affected her even if it was her hardwired computer. Right? Because what they had figured out how to do was to find her home through her internet service provider, and likely were able to just take full control of the internet of the house, right? And anything that's connected in the house, wired or wireless, is going to be affected. And so the phone was affected, right? So yes, everything has flaws. Some things are more secure, right? It is harder to break a wired connection because you literally have to go in there and cut it and then insert something in there, but it's possible. But generally, these types of attackers that I've been talking about are nowhere near you, right? It's possible. There have been cases where somebody goes to a house or something and will cut cables or whatever, insert, so rare and so uncommon that I would not worry about it unless you are doing something for the government that is like top secret, right? Not even just banking, right? At that point, they're going to go for the lower hanging fruit. So yeah, I think what we're getting into right now with the whole, like, what method of attack are they going to use on you? Are you ever safe online? Yes and no. And I think that's where my philosophy comes from of, I just treat it like I'm never safe online. My privacy is not my own. I don't really care if somebody is to get everything from me, because at the end of the day, I know there are ways that you can recover from it. It's not going to destroy your entire life usually, right? So usually, right? Go ahead. You can just, okay.
For example, I mean, I buy a lot of stuff from Amazon, but occasionally I'll have to give my credit card number to somebody else. I guess the more you do that, the more trouble you're going to get into, or the more likelihood of trouble.
I don't think I put it on here, but there's a type of phishing or scamming that's all about online shopping. I think it's like, there's a technical jargon that I'm running in my head right now, but it's exactly what you're talking about. There are websites that try to charge you money, and then they have fake bank accounts, or even a hacker will break into that company and or break into that website and be able to forward you to somewhere that's going to steal your money, right? A really common one that actually happened recently was a certain politician's website actually had credit card data being sent from the legitimate credit card collection form to Russia. Yeah, it was pretty funny. A certain politician, right? I won't go into names, but yeah, that happens. But Amazon is, again, this is where the big companies are going to protect you better than any smaller agency or anything like that, right? Amazon is going to be able to stop that. They're going to pick that up. They're gonna protect you from that. So you can put your trust in these big companies that have the resources to protect against it. But if you are buying something online, if you're using a credit card, be ready and vigilant for fraud. I had it twice in this year. My credit card was either frauded or stolen, right? And I had to get it replaced. That's all. I mean, I catch it because I get notifications. I love notifications. I get notifications for every single charge that goes on my card. And when you see one, you have to stop it. So it's all about the vigilance at that point, right? Like, how much energy are you going to spend on actually like protecting yourself? And there does come a point where you're like, oh, forget it. I don't even want to take the risk, you know? So you don't go and buy stuff off of random Joe Schmo website or whatever. But unfortunately, I'm not in that state. I actually do have to buy stuff randomly off Joe Schmo's website right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's filing complaints and reporting. We talked a bit about that. That's the last thing that you can do. If this does happen to you, go ring all the bells that you can. It's great because that's the way people can try to figure out other ways to stop people. But I don't want to disillusion you. If you report it, there's probably not much that's going to happen. You're probably going to be able to follow for it again, or something is going to happen again. Actually, you probably won't, because if it happens to you, then you're more vigilant usually. But we are getting to the point where attacks are so sophisticated that there's not too much we can actually do as humans to stop it, right? Now, I say that because I wish there was another slide here, but it's really just conclusions and questions. We are getting to the point that artificial intelligence is going to be the thing that is going to protect us better than we can protect ourselves. Protect and attack us. So it is both, right? Artificial intelligence is not what you think it is. This is my plug. It's not going to be something that takes over the world. Where it stands currently is more like a learning model. It's like teaching a computer or teaching a dog a new trick, right? It's a tool currently. It is a tool that you can use. What was the Peter Parker saying, you know? Oh no, never mind. That's not the right one. Yeah, not the spider one. Not that one. That was not the one I'm thinking of. But anyways, the tool that you use and the way that you use it is what's going to define how good or bad it really is, right? So you can imagine hackers, attackers, people who are using these tools can use them to enhance and force multiply their own attacks, whereas people like me can use these tools to do the reverse, right? And we can use them to learn and model how these attackers are actually executing their attacks, and we can try to hopefully stop them before they actually get it. So it goes both ways. Right, but that's my one plug on what the future is looking like. Any questions that we didn't get a time to talk about or that got breezed over? Go ahead.
Thanks. So aside from all the phishing sorts of things that we've talked about here, another thing we need to be aware of is that email is typically not secure. So if you're on a website for Amazon or something and you see HTTPS, then that means that when you enter in your credit card number, it'll be encrypted along with everything else that goes to Amazon or whoever. Nobody in between you and Amazon can sniff packets and see your credit card number. But if you send an email, it's typically open text. Anybody who's got a packet sniffer on the internet, somewhere between you and the destination, can read that email, and use the information about your credit card to their heart's content.
Now, I will say, as we had already talked about, the level of attack that involves is a nation state level, right? Because if you're just on your home internet and you're sending out an email and it's going to get to the destination, which is also a secure location or a secure client or something like that, maybe like your friend's Gmail inbox or something, that's not going to be attacked. That the chain in between you and your friend there is going to be very secure by the people who are actually providing the internet from the services, right? And it would take a nation state level of attack to actually get in that chain. Now, to your point though, if you're on a Wi-Fi or something like a internet cafe, right? And you don't know who the provider is, or maybe it's an open network, that'd be even worse. Then it is possible that somebody could be sniffing. And that is like very low level, that a lot of people get stuff stolen that way. So thank you for bringing that up.
One metaphor that I've heard for this is to say that an email is a postcard, not a first-class letter.
Yeah.
So the postman could read anybody who touches that could read your postcard.
Yeah.
It's not a first-class letter. If you want it to be a first-class letter, you have to encrypt the contents.
Yeah. I will say it breaks down a little bit. The postman doesn't really exist in this sense, but yeah, I know. If there was a postman looking at it, then yeah, he could see it. But yeah, the postcard analogy, perfect one. I haven't heard that one yet, so thank you. Anything else?
Any other questions? Oh.
Yeah.
I have a question about links.
Yeah.
For me, if I see a link that has like a dot after the .com or any kind of a untraditional link, I obviously just delete it. Or if there's all this, like Apple support is just going to say apple.com/support.
Yeah.
And it's not going to have all this other stuff. That puts a red flag up for me. I don't know if it's real or not, but I just contact Apple, contact my bank, or contact.
Always the best way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't have time to dive into that. There's a lot of very technical things we can talk about with regards to a domain or a URL or a link, right? One of the things was HTTPS, right? If you see HTTP, then don't put your banking information in there. But yeah, in an email, if you see a link or if you hover over a link, then you can usually suss out whether or not it's going somewhere that you want it to. So thank you for bringing that up. But it's very technical, and I don't want to really get into that here. So, keep your eyes open though. Yeah.
I just want to give a chance to anybody on Zoom. We can't see you, but if you have any questions or want to say something, feel free to ask now.
Wilson can pull them up. Wilson, do you want to put them on the screen?
Okay.
That's fine.
Well, okay. All right. Thank you so much, Sebastien. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank
This
you
has
all.
been fabulous.
Yeah. And Cybersecurity Awareness Month is October. So next year, I'll probably try to get in on the schedule and do it in
Please.
October again. So we'll talk about this and again in the year. So
If
stay safe.
if you have other questions or topics that are related to this that we might be able to bother Sebastien with, let us know. And also, just for next week, we're going to be actually looking at a film and discussing the issue of poverty for children growing up in the United States. I found a good video on that. And next week, isn't next week the holiday, I think? Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.